fascism.
Yeah or no?
So if it's done in that way,
Yeah.
the process is not fascist. The end result might be if they start coming after you with billy clubs to like arrest gay people, for example.
Well, they're not going to arrest them, but what if they just don't let them get married?
But if they just don't
hang on.
Andrew Wilson totally destroys this woke secular humanist, accusing Andrew of spreading fascism in this debate, as Andrew Wilson outsmarts this goon at every point, logically dismantling his argument. He is completely unable to directly answer Andrew Wilson's questions when pressed because he can't. Let's get in.
Though I'm asking you if under this democracy we vote in Christian nationalism, what's the problem with it?
Yeah, fair point. I'm getting to that. So what would be bad? Or all the things that I described before. We're going to have...
Now what would be bad, ultimately, under democracy, the system itself is set so that we can do this, right? If people think it's in their own best interest to vote based on their Christianity, you shouldn't have a problem with that, right?
As long as we follow the law. Yeah, the way the Constitution is written, it should prevent this. But if we ignore the Constitution, burn it down, then yeah, you could have an ideological capture of the government.
Yeah.
But we're not supposed to have that.
Wait.
Once you allow someone to capture the government, then you immediately allow someone else to capture the government.
How would this be capturing the government? You want people to vote based on their value structures, right?
Well, as long as they're voting in the same interests of the goal of the government.
That you want, right?
That they would want, even a rationally ordered
person.
Well, hang
on. If entailed here is that they don't want that.
Let me finish that my explanation to that. So, if you allow a government to just, like people to just vote for what ideology the government can push, then it's a matter of time only that someone gets in and pushes the ideology you don't like and forces you to do things, like prevents us from having this meeting, for example, shuts this down, like maybe would happen in China, for instance. As soon as you allow that to happen, you will lose control of the government, and bad things will happen as a result. That's how we get fascism and all of that stuff.
Yeah, but do you see how you're not answering to
this?
But
the goal then is therefore to prevent that.
Here's what I'm asking again.
You have to structure the government so that you have the government's neutrality. It treats everyone the same, and you build it so that it cannot.
Richard, can you answer to the question? If it's the case in democracy, people vote in Christian nationalism, how can you make the claim they don't want it? And if it's the case that we're after human flourishing, if it's the case that we're after human flourishing, isn't that, what you're basing this on is like, we should stop them from doing that, right?
Well, so as long as they're following the Constitution that was built to prevent that, right, then that's not going to happen, right?
Well, you can vote in people to get rid of parts of the Constitution you don't like.
But changing the Constitution requires more than a majority vote. So... yeah, what would happen? Here's what would happen.
Back up.
If we got
people can vote in politicians, right, who can then do things which would change the Constitution, or there could be a constitutional convention.
You know how the Constitution? Yeah, like it's a lot harder to get a constitutional amendment change. So let's assume you've got a society that's so.
And it depends on how the Supreme Court rules.
Let's assume you've got such a let's say it's 75% of the country now is Christian nationalists, and they actually get the legislatures they want. They actually in all the states and everything, and they get the Constitution changed. What my proposition would say is that's when things are going to go south. That is actually going to go against human interests because of all the past examples of this happened before.
Yeah, so you want to stop them from doing that, right?
I would want to stop them from doing that.
Would you use force and persuasion to do that?
Only if they are breaking the law. If they
but they change the law to their preference.
Yeah, I think in that case, if that happened, if the country actually voted to destroy itself, I would have to leave.
Okay, so I just want to make sure though. Would you use force rather than persuasion in that case to stop that from happening?
Only if they use force against me. If they're using force, then I'll use force. But if we had the whole country literally just decided this, to basically just
it's not the whole country.
Destroy the country.
That's not how it works. That's not how it works.
I would actually have to leave. And if they tried chasing me and finding me,
they're not trying to chase you and find you. Yeah. The spirit of the question is asking you. I'm asking you a simple question.
Force is met with force.
Yeah, I'm not asking you about force being met with force. I'm asking you if force should be used to prevent this if necessary. So, like, let's say, for instance, I don't know, 60% of the nation wanted it, and the rest of them didn't. Should they, at that point, be using force rather than persuasion?
So if they did it, like they actually did it, then I would just have to leave. Because if they're not
You're not answering the question, dude.
Unless they start using force against me. Like if they come for me to like kill all the atheists, well, now I have to fight them.
I'm asking you if it's the case that force should be used by people who are in a minority, if the majority is voting in these policies, yes or no?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Should people, if necessary, use force, even if it's the case that these are being voted in legitimately, right? Is there some problem with people using force at that point to stop it?
Well, I think at that point, it is the wrong word here. So like what then happens? So once they turn around, once they've done it, and they turn around and start using force on us.
Well,
like,
what force?
To go kill all the atheists? Or
no, they're not.
No.
They could just do things like,
But
I don't know, no more gay marriage.
By the time, look at the French Revolution. By the time they get in there, you won't have control of what they decide at that point.
But
they
you can't
could decide to go kill all
But
the
what I'm
atheists.
saying is that is it the case that you would, if you had X amount of like people in a minority, they felt that they were being oppressed. They just weren't being oppressed with violence necessarily, unless it was a case they were then breaking laws.
At some
new
point,
laws.
it has to be violence. There has to be violence, right? And so if you're
then that would be the case with anything. If you just
'cause
violate any law, there's violence.
If you take away all the rights, but then never enforce that, then you're basically just respecting rights.
I totally agree.
If you take away all the rights and then enforce that, you're using violence to take away people's
Yeah, but
rights.
I mean, this could be phrased however you want. There's a right for men and women to get married. That's it.
A right?
Yeah, you just say there's a right for men and women to get married. Now we're enforcing that right. Right?
Yeah,
and then homosexuals get married. They say, oh, well, and you're not allowed to do that. You're violating the law.
Well, so I'm pretty sure, if you want to follow the logic on that, I agree with the conservative Supreme Court decision written by Neil Gorsuch and concurred by Roberts on why actually that it follows out of the Civil Rights Act, that it would be against that. So you would have to overthrow the Civil Rights Act. Okay.
Or
so
just have it reinterpreted or amended.
Yeah.
You could have things amended.
Right, correct.
Things like this. Well, what I'm saying is that these are all, this was done in a lawful way, right, to get these things done.
Which it was, right? So
but if it's done in a lawful way to get them undone, right, is that now fascism?
What do you, no. So
yes or no?
Fascism.
Yeah or no?
So if it's done in that way,
yeah,
the process is not fascist. The end result might be if they start coming after you with billy clubs to like arrest gay people, for example.
Well, they're not going to arrest them, but what if they just don't let them get married?
But if they just don't let them get, no, yeah,
hang on, Richard, let me ask the question. So let's say, for instance, they go through, they outlaw OnlyFans, prostitution, things like this, make that law. They outlaw homosexual marriage, make that law. Right? They outlaw things like transgender kids getting reassignment surgery, and they make that a law.
Sure.
All right? People violate those laws. They then get arrested or things like this, like you would for any other law. Is that now, are we in fascist territory?
No, because at that point, the people are actually having a say, and they're just using a lawful, nonviolent process to decide what rights they're going to have.
Perfect.
Now, we would engage in persuasion, right? And so I would think that that's going to be bad. It's going to lead to bad outcomes.
Now then, tell me
talk
any
about
of the current
actual basis.
This is perfect.
Evidence. So this is why secular.
Now we're getting there.
Is about evidence.
So help me out here. What Christian nationalist proposition then fits this form of fascism? Use of force rather than persuasion, democracy.
Yeah.
Which one? Which actual proposition being proposed by Christian nationalists right now?
It sounds like
you're
defining Christian nationalism as simply taking away the rights of gay people to marry.
No. I'm asking you a specific question. I'm going to ask it again. What proposition from anybody who's advocating Christian nationalism would not fall under the idea that they're changing the laws to better suit themselves, including amending several constitutional amendments or things like this? How would that be fascism? By your definition, that's not fascism now.
Right.
So if that's the case,
it only becomes fascism when violence comes up.
Yeah, right, exactly. So Christian nationalism is not, in fact, unless you can give me the propositions of Christian nationalism that are going to lead to this sort of violence rather than just law changing, can you?
So are you claiming that Christian nationalism won't increase?
I didn't claim anything. I asked you a question. Can you steel man or at least repeat back?
I got to understand what you're getting at. So I need to
you don't. You don't need to understand what I'm getting at to understand my question. You just need to answer the question.
I don't know what you're asking.
Let me know down below if you think this guy is simply avoiding Andrew Wilson's questions, because Andrew Wilson, what he's asking is simply straightforward, right? If we go through the whole legal process, if Christians want to push more Christian morals, values, all that, and it ends up being legal the whole way through, is that fascism, yes or no? Because the liberal left, the far left, they want to accuse anyone of who are trying to be, Christian nationalists, any country that's trying to retake their culture, their religion, their sovereignty. Oh, they're all fascist. It's fascism coming back. Oh, it's Mussolini, it's Hitler, it's everyone else. No, it's not. It's just Christians. And I find it amusing that this guy warns about taking over through ideology, right? Because of the dangers of that. And yet we see that same thing with wokeism, a forcing an ideology on people that they didn't vote for, that they didn't want. Like, he accuses the right, Andrew Wilson and others like him, of pushing fascism, heavy government, Nazism, all this stuff. But yet it's the left who tried to force their ideals, their ideology on everyone else, right? They try to censor what you said. They try to, accuse you of all these things and just dismiss you. They try to silence them. They are the very thing that they claim Andrew Wilson is and everyone else is on the right. I swear, if the left is anything, it is hypocritical. But hit that like button and notification bell if you're enjoying the video. And if you want to help support the channel, check out the link in the description and let's get back in.
Well, let me ask you again.
Yeah.
Christians right now, Christian nationalist thought leaders all over the place who are saying we want to amend these various laws under the democratic rules, use the Constitution in order to amend many of these laws. Right, and then if you violate those laws,
protected right to do that, to talk about it.
Yeah. So hang on.
We have the protected right to persuade people to.
I understand, but what I'm saying to you is, how could that be fascism if there's no use of force being involved here? So, if the can you show me the Christian nationalist proposition that leads to force?
If you're talking about the Christian nationalist government is not going to use force to enforce any laws or do anything,
your secular government will.
Yes, but those are evidence-based, human-centered things. They're not based on ideology.
That's not what you said. You said fascism is use of force rather than persuasion democracy. It doesn't matter if they're using evidence or not. Hang on.
Persuasion and democracy.
They're utilizing persuasion and democracy.
Right.
And they're still utilizing persuasion and democracy.
Yeah. Yes.
So they're not fascist, right?
Well, they're not advocating. I mean, they might be advocating for a fascist government, but they're not fascist yet. Because
no. That's not what I'm asking.
To violence.
This is wild to me. So help me out here again. If it's the case that democratically, for instance, we just say no more trans, right? You're just not allowed to be trans anymore, right? Or I don't know, you're not allowed to get married as a homosexual anymore, and you're not allowed to do prostitution anymore. Let's just say that you're like not allowed to gamble or do drugs anymore, ever, right? You're not allowed to do any of those things.
Yep.
That's passed democratically through persuasion.
Yeah.
Now it has the force of law.
That's right.
That's no longer fascism.
That by itself is not fascism.
Then can you give me any Christian propositions?
If you can persuade people to vote again to take those things away and change them, yes.
Then show me the Christian nationalists out there who are giving the proposition which would lead to this fascism you're talking about, because that's all they're talking about doing.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly what you have in mind as Christian nationalism, like what the Christian nationalist government
That's
would
not
do.
my question. My question is, can you name a single Christian nationalist right now who is proposing anything other than just amending laws and tailoring them to their own preferences?
Wait, so let me see if I understand what you're asking. So you're asking if...
Isn't it the left that prides themselves on being intelligent, educated, all of that? Oh, we go to Ivy League schools, we go to Harvard, we go all this stuff. And this is what they produce. Idiots who can't answer a basic question. All of these people on the left are more or less just fronts. They are not as smart as they think they are. They can't debate people like Andrew Wilson. They lose basically all the time in debates. That's why you had all these woke idiots try to, yell down Ben Shapiro or Charlie Kirk or anybody at college campuses, Steven Crowder, threaten with violence, because they can't actually win the arguments. And then they just try to play dumb, they obfuscate, they deflect, they use anything they can to get around actually answering the question step by step. And this just shows the gaping holes in all of the left's arguments, their ability to debate, and how they actually think and feel about the values that they claim to have. But they're always ready to play the victim anytime anyone even mentions Christianity or nationalism or anything such as, but at the same time, these are the same people who are perfectly comfortable force-feeding you all of the woke garbage and nonsense into your schools, into your media, into your life, into the law every day of the week. And they have no problem with it. They are hypocrites through and through. But thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you thought about what Andrew Wilson had to say, completely destroying this woke idiot in this debate. Thanks again, like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.